Let's start with Linglin. We go to Sandy, and then we go to Steve. I don't know if we introduce ourselves every time, but this is the last one where we're together. But anyway, let's go Linglin.
那个 Elmarie 刚才跟大家问好，我在这里就简单的会翻译一下。从我们想可能大概有一些中国的朋友可能需要一些这个双语的翻译。那我们先介绍一下我们自己，从玲玲开始。
大家好，我叫施玲玲，我来自浙江义乌，然后因为我在新西兰学习了一些毛利文化，然后会用毛利的方式来介绍我自己，来表示我的尊敬。我的河流是钱塘江，我的山是东白山，我的民族是汉族，我所有的家人都生长在义乌。我曾经是义乌中心医院的一名内科医生，然后2017年的时候选择了去新西兰怀卡多大学学了心理咨询的硕士，然后2019年12月份的时候我完成了学业返回了国内。Hello everyone. Hi, my name is Shi Lingling. Shi is my family name, and I see a lot of people saying hi to me. Hi everybody. I'm from Zhejiang, China, which is in the southeast of China. Zhejiang province is about 178 kilometers from Shanghai and about 718 kilometers from Wuhan. I learned the Maori way of introduction in New Zealand, and I really want to respect that way. So I'm going to introduce myself in that way. My river is Qiantang River. My mountain is Dongbai Mountain, and my nationality is Han. All my family were born and raised in Yiwu, Zhejiang. I was a physician in Yiwu Central Hospital. And I resigned to learn counseling in Waikato University in 2017. And I returned to China December 2019. And now I'm in China. That's me. Okay.
Yeah, okay. That's my turn now. Hi, my name is Sandy. I'm actually from Singapore, but I was born in Beijing, China. So I still see China as my country. So I'm currently living in New Zealand while I pursue my Master of Counseling in Narrative Therapy. So like my parents and most of my friends are still living in China now. 所以我是李欣义，我是新加坡人，但是实际上我出生和长大在北京，中国。所以我现在人在新西兰攻读我的这个心理咨询研究生的这个学位。我现在我的父母和我绝大多数的朋友还生活在北京，中国。Thank you.
谢谢。
Yeah.
Steve, I don't know if you want to.
My dog just walked in.
I don't think we're going to introduce ourselves. Can we just go into the question, or what do we do?
Yes, well, it seems that you have built these relationships with these folks, and so I wonder if maybe you would be willing to start.
Okay. So because, with the translation, it takes some time. So, Lingling, you're going to start with a story. Do you want to?
Okay.
Yeah.
所以首先我会讲一下我的故事。就在我回国后不久，然后我12月份回国的嘛，回国后不久就疫情就在武汉爆发了。当时的就是病毒引起了很多的恐慌、担心，然后人与人之间的不信任，以及很多的一些绝望感。当时给我的感觉就是这次的病毒就来的非常的凶猛，就是把人和自然之间、人和人之间的距离都隔开来了。然后当时也看到很多消息，就夺走了一些病人和医务人员的医务工作者的生命。我当时就觉得非常的看不到希望，就觉得这么小小的病毒就给我们造成这么大范围的一个伤害。同时也就是经历了很多就是不确定、自责，然后羞愧、孤独感这些很多的情绪。 当听到就是病毒的消息的时候，就是因为恐惧嘛，很多在湖北的人可能就想从那个战场里面逃离出来，但是也是因为恐惧嘛，所以其他省份的人就觉得不太敢去接受他们，因为开始的时候病毒有14天的潜伏期嘛，然后在这个时间大家就是没有任何的症状的，就是病毒会通过这样的方式让人感受到就非常的不安全，当时，然后在后面就是这个病毒向其他国家扩散的时候，我就更加会觉得，很不确定，然后就恐惧，然后孤独，很不安全的感觉就更加强烈了。Not long after I arrived back in China, the virus broke out in Wuhan. It brought it with fear, worry, distrust, and at times desperation. Over the world, it got, depicted as something resembled a crown. So it gives me the impression of it trying to control the whole world. And Wuhan was its first battlefield. It tried to separate people from the nature, from each other, and even from our spiritual well-being. It took the life of staff and patients. It was so hard for me to see and hope at first when the coronavirus grew so much power in the body, only visible under microscope. It was invisible from human eyes, although we can see all the effects. It attacks people's lungs, immune systems, and people's spirit. It also brought uncertainty, confusion, shame, and isolation. So when the news first spread out, some people from Hubei was trying to escape from that province to other provinces due to this panic. But the same panic also tried to prevent people in other provinces accepting people from Hubei, because in the first few days, this virus can lurk in people's body without showing any symptom. So it fed on the panic telling people that no one is safe. So, and when the virus made its way to affect other countries, I was more disconnected with hope because all the uncertainty, shame, panic, isolation, and the sense of unsafety. 这个时候，我看到和听到了一些故事，让我重新就看到了希望。就疫情开始的时候，人们就从全国各地就捐献了很多的蔬菜和各种食物，但是当时一个非常大的挑战就是不知道该如何把这些物资送到武汉，人们需要冒很大的被感染的风险。所以1月30号的时候，我看到了一则新闻报道，1月30号的时候，3个内蒙古的小伙子就看到新闻后就选择了接受这个任务。他们要先从内蒙古到北京去把那些物资拿到手，然后再运到武汉，然后再从武汉回到内蒙古，然后需要接受14天的隔离。这一路他们要大概开3000多公里的路程。Then I watched and heard some small stories that lightened my spirit. It was from small moments of the stories that I witnessed hope. I see hope when people offer free vegetables and food to people in Wuhan. People all over China donated a lot of vegetables and other food in the first stage of the virus. However, the challenge was the delivery, because someone needed to take the risk of being infected if the food had to be delivered to Wuhan. So January the 13th, 3 young men from Inner Mongolia decided to take the task. They decided to start off from Inner Mongolia to Beijing to pick up the donations first, and then travel to Wuhan to deliver that. And after that, they had to travel back to Inner Mongolia. They knew they would have to stay in quarantine for 2 weeks. And the whole trip took more than 3,000 kilometers. 接受采访的时候，他们说，就是我们也很害怕，但是这件事情总要有人去做。就在途中，他们的车在那个河南驻马店出了故障，他们说当地的就是村民就免费让他们修理了卡车， 然后他们在经过高速路的时候，也是就是那些工作人员都免了他们的就是那个高速路费，并且就是跟他们说你们要注意安全。其中一个叫李高峰的小伙子还就是对记者说哈，就是这一路上亲眼看到了，亲身感受到了，就是人们就是万众一心，要跟这场战役做斗争。说因为从这些他知道我们一定能够战胜这场战役。When interviewed, they said, "We were scared too, but someone need to do it." The trunk ran into trouble on the road in Henan, which is 507 kilometers from Wuhan. And they told the story of how a local man fixed it for free. How people in the toll station waved the road toll for them and wished them good luck. One of the young men, who named Li Gaofeng, told the journalist that I saw and experienced people connect to each other on our way. And I knew from it that we would win this battle against the coronavirus. And that's my story. Thank you. Just for the question.
Steve, over to you.
I went first last time.
No, you're fine. Keep going.
Sorry, Linglin or she?
Ling.
But yeah, thank you for sharing that story. There's so much I'm curious about, but I guess the first question I have is, as the presence of COVID was attempting to diminish hope for you, or was successfully diminishing hope for you, how did you get through that? How did you find a way through that despite the diminishing hope that you're experiencing?
Steve 提问的问题是说，当这个冠状病毒就摧毁了你的对这个希望的这种信念的时候，你是怎么去跟他斗争的？
It's this, I think I recalled the knowledge I learned from narrative therapy. I learned from New Zealand, Waikato University. And it's about connect to these stories, like lightening our spirit. Like when I see all these small stories there, I feel like it's like the stars in the sky, you know, when we in the dark, we still see there's small lights there that give me hope to know, like, you know, maybe this brightening, this lightening, this daylight will come again, even though we are in the night, we are in the dark. Yeah.
玲玲说，这个让他想到了当时他在新西兰读书的时候的一些经验哈，关于这个 narrative therapy，所以呢，他说就好像在黑暗里面看到了一些星光，那这些星光呢都会指引一些方向，然后给他一些希望，也会相信，就是说虽然现在很黑暗，但是光明总是会到来的。Yes, Steve.
Could you just say more about, like, how come that particular story of connection that you were hearing when they were on the road and was so moving to you and was a star in the darkness for you?
你是怎么能够把这个怎么可以连接，就是这种这些小小的让你被你感动的事情，包括就是这些人在帮忙啊，和这些黑暗啊联系起来的。
I think because when I experience hope, one of the most fearful thing for me is the separation, the isolation. Like people cannot connect to each other. people cannot trust each other. And I think this connection, about the value about this connection, is something, I don't know, and I would say like it's in my blood, it's in my vein, like because you know, in Chinese culture, it's a very big part of it's a very big part about valuing this relationship, about valuing this connection. And when I was very young, I saw how my parents, you know, connect to relevant relatives and neighbors and communities, and how we get through all these things together when we witness or experience the hardship. So I think when I see all this connection and how they value the connection as well as I am, that's just like a, you know, like the light, 打火机怎么说?
Lighter.
Lighter, yeah, it's just, yeah, just like the lighter, you know, start a fire, then and will it just grow all bigger and big in my body, and I feel warmth by these stories. Yeah.
And what did that experience do to the original image you had of the coronavirus with a crown trying to rule the world?
00就是那个，你会觉得这个冠状病毒怎么会像一个就是一个皇冠一样，就是去侵略整个人类？
Coronavirus in Chinese named 冠状病毒, and Guan was like a crown, and so that gives me the idea of, and also because that reminds me, sorry, I saw an article saying about this coronavirus, like some demons with crowns, something like that. I see that article, and that gave me the impression of that. And because it feels like the whole country was against it, so a lot of tension, a lot of things. It feels like it troubled, it rippled a very big terror around China, and then afterwards it feels like around the world. Do I make sense?
我要翻译吗？我觉得it's very hard to translate into Chinese. Actually,
I can do that myself if yeah. 就是刚开始，就是 Steve 问了我，就是为什么在最开始的时候会给我一个印象，就觉得这个冠状病毒像一个带着黄光的那个病毒要来侵犯全世界，然后要控制全世界的感觉。然后我说我只要因为在冠状病毒在中国命冠状嘛，就是像皇冠一样。然后我确实也看到了一篇文章，就是在描述就是冠状病毒要怎么样去侵略这个世界这样的一篇文章。然后当时就给我的印象就是，这个是一个范围很广的一个情况。然后也确实就是在人们中间造成了很多的恐慌啊什么的。当时给我的感觉就是这个影响非常的广，影响非常的大。Yeah, happened.
Marie?
I was thinking about the three young men. Can I change that one? Yeah. So they took a risk by being infected, because at that stage we were not even sure how it was transported to other people. Is that right? Yeah. And he declared very clearly that we were afraid.
Yeah.
And what word would you call their action? What, you know, when you think about their action, what comes to mind? What words would you use for that?
马瑞问，刚才在00的故事里面特别有3个年轻人哈，他们冒着自己的这个生命的危险， 他们也说他们会害怕。那Marie问玲玲说，如果现在请你就是用一个词来形容对于他们的这种行为，你会用什么词来说来解释他们的行为？
I would say there's two words pop out in my mind. There's care and there's bravery. Brave. You know, they are taking actions in the feeling of unsafety, uncertainty. Yeah.
玲玲说她有2个词，她现在能想到，一个是关爱，一个是勇气。觉得说这些年轻人带着这种勇气，有冒着风险去帮助别人。Yeah, Marie.
So the coronavirus had the effect of, you used quite a number of words like shaming and isolating and all of that. And then we've got a lot of words on this side, and you've got care and bravery. And that one example with care and bravery, and you can maybe explain what kind of care do you think that is and what kind of bravery. But they stood up against the coronavirus. And I know you said that the connection was built. So care and bravery work towards breaking down, smalling down the isolation. How did that work?
Well, Marie 问就是说，其实，在你的故事里，你说了很多关于就是被隔离呀，然后有很多自责、不好意思，但是同时呢，你也能感受到，就是有一些关爱和一些很多的勇气在里面。这些方面都是怎么样融合在一起的，在你的心里
？That's a good question. I think this caring, I just remembered when, you know, sometimes my parents care about me when I care about them. I just feel like sometimes this caring has more power than this fairness. Because I think in a lot of times in our lives, we will say, oh, I can't do this, or I can't do that. I'm afraid of doing this. I'm afraid of doing that. But I think this caring or this bravery, or maybe they're connecting to something so important, will help them to say, oh, all this fearness, all this panic, or this virus is not able to, you know, really taken us over because we have something more important, or we valued more that we want to catch.
玲玲说她的父母跟父母的一些关系，让她想到了跟自己的父亲和母亲。那就说有的时候我们真的很怀疑自己哈，也怀疑我们自己，常常会怀疑我们自己做不到这个，做不到那个，有很多的阻碍。那这些故事就告诉我们，其实有的时候我们其实如果我们够勇敢，我们其实可以突破很多的阻碍，可以达到一些未来的目标。Yeah.
Steve, I see you were moving forward.
Yeah, what you just said caught my attention, Lingland, around the bravery or the caring, you know, being more powerful than the fear, and being able to sort of take steps or actions, especially if it's in relation to something that's more important than the fear. And I was wondering if you would think that's that thing that's more important is the connection that is in your blood and in the country's blood as well, or is it something else that you're thinking of?
Yeah, sorry. Do you
want to go ahead? 就说林云就是关于这个勇气，然后也有一些恐惧感，但是有的时候比恐惧更重要的是一些连接你是怎么认为这些事情
Yeah, I do think this connection is something very important. And I just saying some Chinese saying said like, one chopsticks is very easy to snap, and if you have 10 chopsticks, it's very hard to snap. So that's, I think, why those 3 young men valued as well, because I think it's Chinese culture, yeah.
And sorry, you want to?
雷云就是说，就是他觉得这些connection 是凝聚力，就是他想到中国有一个有一个讲法，就是说有1双筷子的话，你很容易会掰，但是如果你要10双筷子的话，你很难把这些筷子一起都掰断掉。Yeah, Steve, please.
So this story of these 3 men taking these steps of bravery and caring that lightened things, that created a star and some light, revived some hope, and has you reconnected to your blood and the history of connection. Have you noticed whether that had any effects that made it possible for you to take some steps in relation to fear, or that you might not have otherwise taken? Or does it have you thinking about some things that you might hope to do that would fit with, being brave and caring?
Yeah. 就通过这3个人的故事哈，就是这3个年轻人的故事，让雷云看到了一些人性里边的闪光点、希望和光芒。所以呢 ，Steve 也想知道，就是说有没有通过这样的事情，雷云自己对自己本身的生活有没有一些什么影响，或者说有些什么样的感受
Yeah, as I say, like a lot of times we will experience a lot of hardness, and or something we feels like we can't go through, or something we feels like too huge for us to achieve, something like that. But from that, I know with this connection or with this caring from others, sometimes can be some strength or power to help me through. Like, just remind me when I was in New Zealand, when my parents say like they care for me, I just feel like I have more power or more strength to keep going my study and keep going doing things I feel like I'm not comfortable of doing. Yeah, so I think that small that stories connect with my stories to build my identity or my value for this connection.
就是这些故事让雷云想到了，就是说，当我们遇到困难的时候，尤其是我们有的时候认为是很大的困难的时候，这些人与人之间的联系和这些凝聚力呢，会让我们更勇敢的向前走，突破这些困难。这个故事也让他想到了他当时自己一个人在新西兰的时候，他的父母常常就会问他，会关心他说：“你好不好？我们在这边跟你在一起。”就这些东西都会让他有更坚定的说，我可以更勇敢的向前走。
Linglin, I'm going to ask if you think that this is a good place for us to shift to Sandy's story, or do you want 1 or 2 more questions?
No, I'm good to shift to Sandy. Yeah.
How about just a little reflection on how that was for you, that experience?
Steve 想请玲玲说一下，就是说刚才这些问题对他来说有什么样，让他给一些反馈。
I think these questions help me to reconnect to my previous stories as well. Like, it's just a story, but after all these questions, a lot of stories has been connected and help me to understand and appreciate that more, I think. Yeah.
玲玲说她自己的这些，通过这些问题，也让她自己了解她觉得她明白为什么要讲这些故事出来，和自己的这些连接有更多的连接。Yeah.
谢谢。
谢谢，谢谢。Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Steve, are we ready to shift? Okay. Okay, Sandy, it's your turn.
所以现在是 OK，it's my turn。所以我会现在来讲我的故事，很小很小的故事。So like when COVID-19 started to spread, China was the first country to be locked down. To many of the people I know, it was a huge shock. From being a huge country that developed very, very fast and with a very busy life, it is hard to imagine this kind of like transactions, especially during the Chinese New Year period. Chinese New Year is the most important traditional holiday in China. It's the time for us to gathering with the family and friends. But with this sudden lockdown, people felt lost and then deprived. So updates from my family and friends were quite negative at the beginning when the lockdown started. And they will use the words like lost, scared, and hopeless. Fear and hopeless mainly because of the unknown future. So at that time, I tried to tell them to be positive. I told them lockdown life just more or less very similar to my life in the rural area in New Zealand. They have nothing to be worried about. And I suggest them to just enjoy the slow pace of lifestyle. 所以呢，在这个冠状病毒是吗？冠状病毒开始蔓延的时候，中国其实是最早被这个封锁的国家之一，对吧？所以我想从一个泱泱大国，然后非常快速的生活节奏，到突然一下的这种转变，一下停止了一切，是很难想象。当时呢，刚好是正值这个春节的时期，我想春节对于我们来说是非常重要的节日，对吧？大家要亲朋好友都要相聚，所以从一开始的这种莫名其妙的这种封锁，让大家都会觉得很害怕。我当时听到很多我家人和朋友都会说，就非常悲观的，非常害怕，也不知道未来会怎么样，然后大家都感到很恐慌。所以我那时候就跟他们说，没什么好担心的，因为你们的生活就好像我在新西兰大农村一样的，我住在乡下新西兰的乡下，所以我说，没有什么，你们就好好享受生活就好了，慢慢来不着急。So like when more and more countries face the effect of COVID-19, New Zealand locked down as well. Now when the effects start to become real to me, I also feel anxious. I feel depressed. I did not watch TV, news on TV for over 20 years, absolutely never. And suddenly I started turning on the TV at 1 p.m. every single day to watch the news updates with the Prime Minister and the doctors. So it really made me to think about the empathy and positive energy I tried to show my family and friends in China. So when I told them, like, don't worry, like, just be positive. When I look back when I look at now, so those words are not empathetic at all. So then I really didn't understand what they were worried about and what they were facing at that time. So 这个后来新西兰也开始了全面的封锁，然后我真的我自己也是感到了深深的焦虑，还有这个很不安，所以我也好多年没有看过电视呢，然后我就突然就开始每天看电视，看这个新闻联播到底才有多少个病例啊什么的。所以我这个时候再回想起来，我当时在中国刚开始封锁的时候，跟大家讲说你们别担心啊，这些话，尤其是我自己学这个专业的，我是想说，我其实一点都不了解大家当时在担心什么东西。So, yeah, I can continue my story. I have like a cousin story, but do you have any questions you want to ask me, Stephen? So like, or you want
Maybe just finish the story and then we will ask you the question.
Okay. Oh yeah. So like I have a cousin actually who faced and survived cancer twice in the past 10 years. So since this experience, she has always worried about her health. So when she contacted me recently, she told me that she heard there were a lot of deaths because of COVID-19. she started to question herself. She realized she was worried too much about her health and that she totally forgot how to treasure the life itself. So this made her really think about how to live the rest of her life. So she started to discover healthier ways to cook Chinese food, because Chinese food is very famous about oily, right? So like she tried to make it healthy. And then she did not give me any advice during my lockdown, but somehow, like, you know, she shared this kind of ways of cooking, and then she wrote down the recipes in very, very detailed ways to for me, and then teach me how to cook Chinese. So my cousin really helped me to see some hopes in the darkness. She helped me to see that someone can learn a lot about life and living in such a terrible period of time. Yeah. 所以我有一个表姐，我这表姐过去10年至少2次，对，跟这个癌症的手术啊做了一些斗争，所以她常常跟我说，她很担心她的身体，以至于她都忘了怎么活着。所以呢，在这个疫情下面呢，所以看到很多人死了以后，她就开始回想起，她就问她自己，她到底要怎么过她的余下的这个人生，所以她就开始研究怎么做中餐，怎么把中餐做得更健康。然后因为我自己不太会做饭，所以他在我的疫情期间，所以他就把中餐的菜谱写给我，然后就是真的是手把手一步一步教会我怎么做更健康的中餐。所以也是我表姐让我看到了，就是说在这些黑暗当中的一些希望吧，就是人在很困难的情况下仍旧可以就是找到一些生活的亮光。Alright, this is my story. Yeah, 这是我的故事。
And I've got a very practical question. Steve will come up with beautiful ones. Which recipe did you try first?
Which recipe? Yeah. 我可以来。Yeah. 奥妹说她想问我一个非常的practical 非常实在的问题，就是她说我第一个学的是做的什么菜？红烧肉。I don't know how to say that in English. Yeah, but it's a very traditional Chinese food. Yeah, with the pork.
And what happened?
Healthy though.
Say again?
How to say that? It's like the pork, but it's, yeah. Okay. I really like that food.
Yeah,
I really
you like that. And so what happened for you as you were preparing this recipe that she's just sent to you? What happened for you?
I feel loved. Yeah, I feel like delightful.
Delightful. And what was the first word? Love.
Love. I actually cooked with joy. I never thought about it.
Cooked with joy. Do you know where that showed, where the joy showed? If your partner looked at you, how would he have known that there was joy in this cooking?
I'm not sure, but I think so. Yeah.
If he had to speculate, where would he have seen that, or heard it?
I might sing while I'm cooking. I don't know.
Singing.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I actually talking to my cousin while I'm cooking, so she was there.
Okay, so she was there and you would talk to her while you were cooking it. So she was saying, no, don't do it like this or something like that.
Or we just like talk randomly.
Talk the recipe. Yeah. Linglin, do you want to translate? Sorry, we're just going.
Sorry.
Okay.
Just a summary.
A summary.
Elmarie 就是问了，就是Sandy 为什么就是她婵姐教她做这个食物的时候，对她感触比较深，然后Sandy 说就是感觉到被爱的感觉，然后sorry, it's just too long a little bit, and I forgot some of that part.
I can do it myself. 所以
Yeah,
Marie 问我，就是说我那个第一次做饭有什么感受，然后我就跟他说，我觉得我很有爱的感觉，因为我跟我表姐一直在那个电话会议哈，所以我一边做，他就一边我们也什么瞎聊天什么的，他让我会觉得很愉快，做饭是一件很愉快的事情。Yeah,
Steve.
that's it. Yeah, Steve.
Oh yeah, so many things. Uh, I'm torn. I want to go a couple different ways. So one is I'm struck by you telling a story that included you. Tell me if I get this wrong, but sharing that the way that you related to your family at first, you later felt like was not empathic.
Yeah, Steve 就是他在问我，他说他不太确定我这个故事到底在说的是什么。我一开始说我跟我家里人的这个担心，我家里人，然后另外一边我又讲说就是跟我家里人的这些联系。Actually, that's why I stopped. I asked you in the middle of my story. I was wondering like if you have any questions because I thought about the first part of my story. I thought about what I learned. I'm learning narrative therapy. So like,
oh, sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, no. So like, I'm wondering like, I sort of, we always talk about like, slow down, try to understand. That's how therapists can go through to support others. But for somehow, like, where I position myself at the very beginning, that's what I question myself through my first part of my story.
So I guess that's what really struck me is that you decided to tell that. And yeah. I wonder what it is that you might be caring enough about that you would share that with us, even though like you weren't happy with or you learned something from previous.
Yeah.
我翻译一下吗？
好，可以，谢谢。
OK， 一开始就是 Steve 说，就是问这个你已经说过了哈。然后 Sandy 就回答说，就是他因为他在学叙事疗法 narrative therapy， 然后这个故事也是让他知道从中学到了一些什么，从一开始没有注意到的东西，到现在就是注意到了一些东西。然后Steven 就问 Sandy 就说。虽然就是说你在这个过程中可能不太满意你自己的故事，但是你还是想要去分享它，并且就是从中学到的东西，所以是什么让你觉得你想要去分享这个故事 ？Yeah,
that's a really good question, Steve. I actually feel a little bit ashamed because like the discourses I feel like they shaped me when I was growing up in China. It's like, I concerned I should do the right thing. I keep saying that I need to do the right thing. So when I look back, I feel a little bit ashamed about like, where I position myself towards my family and friends, or even the people in China. I told them, don't worry, but actually I do not know. So that's how I link with what I learned in narrative therapy. So like, I really don't know. So through that story, I also keep telling Marie, like, the first clients, I feel bad for my practicants. So like I said, I really don't know. I know nothing. That's how I learned. Yeah.
Cindy 说，就是他在这个过程中体验到了就是羞愧的感觉，因为他一直就觉得他必须要知道这些东西，他必须做正确的事情，但是就是在那个时候，他可能并不知道，就是我们就是在中国的时候经历了在中国的这部分亲人经历了什么，但是他就说跟他们说你不要担心，所以他从当中就体会到了，就是他其实不知道，但是就不知道的这种感觉，让他会觉得非常的羞愧。
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I would have imagined shame would have wanted you to keep that story quiet. And so I guess I was wondering like what you were honoring, what you were standing up for. in being willing to tell us that story.
Steve 说，就是因为一般来说羞愧会让人觉得不想去分享，会让人们就是沉默，就是把这个秘密藏起来。但是就是它说明了在你的生活中，就是你是就是how do I say that word？你是就什么在你生活中是很重要的，让你觉得你需要去分享这个故事。
Well, I actually learned few things very important on top of my learning itself, like skills itself. I think, I mean, I don't know, like, I'm doing things wrong and I accept it. It's very important to me. Yeah, because like, I don't know, because my experience, like, if like our exam for when I was a kid, for 100 is the full score. If I'm getting 98, my question from my family, it's not like, wow, you're doing really good, close to perfect, but they would challenge me, what's wrong with that 2 missing point? So, but now so like that's make me feel shame. But now in New Zealand, the life, like what I learned here and I experienced, like I want to face, it's okay. If I don't have that 2 points, that's how I learned. I don't know, I'm 40, so like now I started to really look at the mistakes. I'm willing to face it. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Sandy 说他在这个过程中学到了很多东西，就是首先就是在犯错误的时候跟自己说，就是没有关系，就可以犯错误。因为他在可能小时候的教育当中就觉得，我们总是就追求100分，要追求完美，就觉得100分是最好的。但是就是考到98分的时候，可能就觉得还是不够，会被鞭策。然后所以他会有一个想法，就觉得如果我没有做到完全正确，如果我犯了错误，就是需要感到羞愧或怎么样。但是当他在学习了之后，他就开始知道，就是可以允许自己犯错误。
Yeah.
Marie, you want to go? Or I've got more, but if you've got some, go for it.
No, you can go. I've got the recipe one.
Well, build off of that, I wondered what, you shared that your cousin found a way to learn how to live in response to this. And one of the choices she made in connecting how she wants to live was to share recipes with you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, I wonder what it is that she's experienced in a relationship with you that would make her want to do that.
Steve 问就是他那个 Sandy 的堂姐愿意跟他分享食物或者分享这个做菜的方法。Steve 想知道就是是什么让他的堂姐想要跟 Sandy 去分享这个
How funny, Steve, you asked that question. Like, because I never ever cooked once in my life before I moved to New Zealand. Yeah, and then like the shutdown level 4, it's really like no KFC, no McDonald's. So like it's a very important for me to survive, I guess.
Sandy 说就是他在去新西兰之前没有做过一顿的饭，然后但是在这个封锁期间，就是没有肯德基，没有麦当劳，他就必须要学会自己做饭来生存下去。
If I was here, I mean, if I could speak to her, I would be interested in knowing what she says she's appreciated about the contributions you've made to her that would make her want to share recipes with you.
Oh, I'll ask that question for her. Yeah, maybe I'll email it back later.
Steven 就说，他会猜想，就是为什么他堂姐愿意跟 Sandy 去分享这个食物，是因为，他就是也觉得就是跟 Sandy 有这个关系很好，然后愿意就是非常感谢 Sandy 的一些陪伴，或者是所以他愿意分享这个。然后 Sandy 说他会记得去问他的堂姐这个问题。
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure and honor to listen to your stories and to be invited to ask questions. And Elmarie, I just want to say to you, like, how deeply grateful I am for you creating these last 2 waves, you know, from Japan to China, and the care that you took in the New Zealand wave too. So some last reflections or thoughts from the 3 of you?
I'm going to leave them to just think about their last words, because one of the things that I pick up from Ling Lin and from Sandy and from the previous one is the possibility of isolation. And I mean isolation on a world stage where one country can isolate from the other because, first of all, we have to protect, but there can also be some really hurtful comments to isolate and to shame. So it's no wonder that Ling Lin would talk about that. And I'm grateful for a forum like this where we can connect with respect and keep that connection going, even though we may have limitations of not being able to travel. We can travel in our spirit and in our care for each other. And that's what I'm taking away from each of the stories. And I really am grateful for that. Cooking would be good as well, to just share recipes and talk about the history of recipes and where it comes from our grandparents and how we take it forward. Hi, kia ora, xie. Thank you.
Do I just translate a little bit? Okay.
Yeah.
Elmarie 想说，在这个特别是疫情期间，可能大家很容易就就大家可能隔离开来了，就是但是他觉得就是这个人与人之间的就是连接非常的重要。当然我们可以通过分享食物的方式，分享那个食谱的方式来连接，但是就是他觉得这个连接非常的重要。
Sandy, have you got a last word?
I want to say thank you. Very nice to meet you, Steve, and thank you for your questions. And thank you, Elmarie, to invite us in this China log. And I want to say thank you to each one of you guys are watching us. And I got actually a lot of text message from my friends. And so yeah, I'm very honored to being part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sandy 就是感谢一下大家，就是来参加我们的就是听会。And I would like to say some words as well. Like I really appreciate this way of connection as well. Like it's very connected with my value of connection. Thank you so much, Steve, and thank you, Elmarie, for inviting us. And I was thinking like. You know, after I learned narrative therapy, I know how important all this story is, and that means a lot to us. And so I would like to thank everybody as well, like to hearing to witnessing our story and to accepting us with this care. So, and I would wish everybody have all the small stories in their lives. Yes. Just a little bit translation, okay. 我想说，就是我也非常感谢，就是这个会议把我们也就是相互连接起来了。这跟我对于这个大家之间相互，就是 connect， 就是连接，就是非常的重要。然后，我觉得从我学习叙事疗法来说，我也觉得就讲故事这本身非常的重要，因为故事里面就包含了很多我们认为我们生活中什么是重要的。然后谢谢大家花时间来听我们，然后用包容的态度来接受我们的故事。希望你们有各自很多的小故事。 Thank you. Yeah.
Well, it's such a it's so warming to be in these intimate spaces for me. It's just very healing for me, and I think the connection in the blood is something, you know, maybe we can connect around. And like, but for example, there's somebody in the chat, Danielle, caught something you said, which I think, you know, is so much a gift when we're listening and catching these things. But just a quote from you, if that's okay. Like lightning for our spirits, daylight will come again. Those were your words.
Thank you. 就是 Stephen 也说，就是在这个空间里面让他感觉到温暖，然后让他感觉到被治愈。然后他引用了一些我的一些话，他觉得把它分享还给我，就是说黎明总会到来的，然后这个光会照耀我们。对，Thank you.
Well, as we've heard in this conversation, China is a big country. So we have the wave is going to continue in China for the next hour. And
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
All right, thank you both. Oh,
You
yes.
just need to move me to the other panel, please.
Can I just move you to Boston?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.